Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our monthly collaboration with Early Steps Center Florida. My name is Soren Richardson, and with me I have Rose today. Hi, Rose.
Hi, Soren. I'm glad to be here. I'm with Central Florida Early Steps. So we work with the families in Orange, Seminole, and Osceola counties.
It's a pleasure to have you. Today it's just going to be Rose and I. So we're going to be presenting to you about communication and the importance of positive communication. I am going ahead and share my screen.
And just so everyone knows, I'm the mother of three children. I have worked a number of years in the public schools, and then I gave birth to twins a number of years ago. One twin lives with spina bifida, which means he's medically complex. I've had to learn a whole new language with all of that. And really, like you all, our life experiences really um, educate us. And so, Soren also, I'll let her tell you about her motherhood story. But that's why we feel it's really important today to share some tips as you're starting your journey as parents on on the communication with people who really will make a positive difference for your child and also your family.
Thank you for that, Rose. Absolutely. Rose and I were talking a little bit earlier about the importance of communication, and that this is, for most of us that have been in early steps or are currently receiving services, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's a lifelong journey. Tell you a little bit about myself, I have a 9-year-old now that lives with Down syndrome. And he is the reason that Rose and I met about 9 years ago when he was born. And we went through the Central Florida Early Steps. And that's how we met, we became friends, and now we get to collaborate on a professional level as well. So today we're going to talk about communication. But before we jump into communication, I would like to tell you a little bit about our organization. We are a nonprofit 501c3, and we get our funding through the U.S. Department of Education and the U.S. Department of Health. Because of these grants, all the services that we provide to families are always free. We are called the Statewide Parent Training Information Center, PTI. And within FND, we also house the Statewide Family to Family Health Information Center. So I'm going to tell you a little bit in the next screen what it is that we do. We were founded in 1985 by a group of parents that have children with disabilities, just like us today here. They were sitting in somebody's room and they were looking for information and sharing resources. And that's how we came about 40 years ago. 40 years later, we are doing the same work but more on the state level, so the statewide level. So we used to only have one PTI, now we have three, so we serve the whole state. And we serve families that have children with a disability or at risk of a disability from birth to age 26. So if you are currently receiving services from early intervention, we get funded to support you and help you understand anything that you need. We do not attend meetings though. So I'll talk about that in a little bit. And then the last thing I wanted to mention about F&D is that the majority of our board members, management staff, leadership, to our field staff, we are all parents of a child with disability or a caregiver or a self-advocate. So we understand the journey you are on, and we shared our lived experience with you and what we have learned along the way.
And
So,
I'd like to interject, if I could, just
of
very
course.
quickly. I'm sorry. I wanted people to know that um, last summer I was at a training and There had been extensive research in other states for things that families who were part of the state early intervention program had wished that they had. And what the outcome of that research was that most of the supports that families were looking for would come from a parent training center. And the thing was, those families in those other states didn't know about their parent training centers. And so, as someone who works for Early Steps, I take it very seriously to try to make sure our families know about these incredible supports that are available. And having Soren on the team there really adds to the credentialing of their program. So go ahead, Soren.
Thank you so much for sharing that information. And it's true. It's sometimes parents don't hear about us, and when they do, it's because there's something that they're not happy about. Something is not going correctly. But there's also once they find us, we have multiple families that reach out to us from time to time to get just information and to learn more about the special education process here in Florida. And that is what we do. So we are not attorneys, we are not doctors or medical professionals. None of the information that we share with you personally, one-on-one, or in these workshops can be considered medical advice, legal advice, or mental health advice. So yeah, we do talk about IDEA a lot, but we do not practice law. We explain to parents what their parents' rights are. What we do is we share information, resources from vetted sources to support you and your family. We create workshops like this today based on research, information that we extract from vetted researchers. And also we collaborate with different professionals, school agencies, also Early Steps, Project 10, Fiddlers, you name it. We collaborate with all the partners. So let's talk a little bit about communication, right? So if your child has a disability that is gonna potentially um, mean that they're gonna have an IEP once they age out of Early Steps, communication with different professionals in the field is going to be uh, a second part of your world. Like you have to communicate maybe with medical professionals, doctors, therapists, OT, PT, speech. In my case, also with if you're currently in early intervention, your care coordinator. How do we
Yeah,
call it?
family care coordinator, also called service coordinator. Same
Yes.
thing. Mhm.
And the resource specialist also at early steps. Also, when they transition to the school, you're gonna have the school system, so the teacher, staffing specialist. And yes, I know your babies, they're babies now, but before you know, they're going to be a middle school, and then you're going to go to an IEP meeting, and there are like six teachers there. So communication is so important. And on this slide, you're going to see how they broke down communication. So we have 60% of our communication is body language, right? Like how we sit, how we present ourselves. 30% is the tone of voice. One of the things that I have learned is you can say anything depending how you're saying it, right? And then also approximately 10% of communication is the word spoken. So it's not about what you're saying, it's how you say it and your body language accompany the words that you're saying.
And I just recently read that um, American Sign Language is preferred by so many who have hearing challenges because reading is good, but there's no tone. And so having someone doing American Sign Language helps them to understand the tone better, the
Oh,
excitement. Mhm.
interesting. That's really good. That's a very interesting fact.
Thank you. I thought it was too.
Before we dive in talking, collaborative talking, let's understand what communication is. Okay, so communication has two parts, a sender and a receiver. So the sender has a message that he or she wants to transmit, and she puts in words. So that's it. And they do this in the best of their ability, and it reflects what they're thinking. Okay. But many things can intervene to prevent the intended message from being received. So many factors can determine how the message is interpreted by the receiver. All new information we learn is compared with the knowledge that we already have. So that is our baseline of communication that we have internally. And it if it confirms that we already know, we will likely receive the new information, though we may pay little attention to it. So it all depends what you're receiving. And if the message goes against our previous assumptions or interpretations of the situation, we may distort the information, or we may dismiss the information as misguided or wrong, right? It's all about our internal value, norms, and interpretation of the message. Ways that communication can be misinterpreted. Maybe you're crossing your arms and it can be perceived as an aggressive stance. Interrupting another speaker can come over as disinterested. Also, a negative tone can be misinterpreted as anger. Posture, open and friendly, that can be interpreted as being engaged. Facial expression, and then we also have silence. Silence can be seen as frustration, disagreement, denial. And then also one of the factors that we deal with as being mommies is emotions. It is not easy to hear what your child is not doing, not reaching milestones yet, right? And it is very hard oftentimes for us as parents that we are doing the best we can. We are putting hours in therapies and doing it at home, and to hear from therapists or medical professionals that our child is not there yet. And sometimes we can engage in one of these factors that I just mentioned that can lead to misinterpretation, right? Because we feel defensive. They're our babies. So, one of the things that is crucial for effective communication is listening, right? Listening more than you talk. And there's two types of listening. You have active listening and passive listening. Active listening is when you make a conscious effort involving your entire body. You're present to hear not only the word, but also the message. And active listening requires engagement of the listener and using strategic actions to be engaged. And when we stop for a moment and do active listening, oftentimes we are able to put our emotion inside and don't hear, because I used to hear your child cannot do this, but basically what they were telling me is he's not doing it at the moment. We need to incorporate A, B, C, and D to help him reach the goal. And because I was not active listening, I did not hear the second part that if we do all these things, also he's gonna get there. All I was hearing is he is not doing this right now. Anything
Um,
you want to add, Rose?
I was just going to mention there's a tip that helped with my husband and I because as Soren mentioned, and many of you know that are watching today, there's a lot on the shoulders. Sometimes that falls on the mothers. And so basically, what we practiced for a while was called emptying our jug, where he would need to just listen to what I had to say for 3 minutes. And 3 minutes is actually a lot longer than you think when it's not interrupted. And the outcome of just even to realize it was by talking, it was that I was not frustrated with him, but it was I was just frustrated with that there were so many things that I couldn't control, but that I wanted to control. And so that is a helpful tool, just called emptying your jug, setting aside some time where one person is listening while the other person has a chance to just say their thoughts out loud. That's very therapeutic.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. And I have to confess that I can I'm guilty sometimes when my husband say, hey, why don't you arrange this, right? Something. And before he's done, I'm guilty of responding already. I'm not actively listening because I'm perceiving my assumption. What I'm hearing is one more thing I gotta do today. And I'm like, get no time, right? And that is not active listening. That's just you're hearing, but you're not listening. All right. So now we have a couple of strategies on the screen that we can see to improve your listening skills, to practice active listening, right? And if you want to add something in the chat, which one is the one that you practice, or you're like, okay, I need to focus more on this, please share with us in the chat here. Um, Neutral and non-judgmental, which I just confessed that I am guilty of not doing because I'm judging already. Be patient, right? And give verbal and non-verbal feedback. We just saw at the beginning that 60% of our communication is our body language. So if you're making eye contact, and that could be also different for different cultures, right? Or different disabilities that they're not giving eye contact. But the way that your body, you lean in, you're smiling, you're nodding, right? You're acknowledging the information is coming over. Ask questions. That is also a sign of active listening, but that is one way to really get all the information. Every time you are at the doctor's with your therapist, whatever it is, the teachers with your child, never leave feeling, I don't really understand this. Always ask questions. For by the time you leave, you're like, I understand everything. Maybe you don't agree, but you understand every single thing.
And Soren, when my children were younger, especially, but I've carried it over into their older years, is for me, I write the questions down. Some people have them typed in their phone, but that helped me when there were distractions, like my little ones running around the room, to make sure that before I walked out of the classroom, the doctor's office, the therapy office, that I did get those questions answered. It helped me to stay organized. Everyone has a different style, but for me, having it written ahead of time really always paid dividends in the outcomes of those appointments for me.
Yeah, I like that. I do that too. Now I put it in my notes in my phone. And then when I am having the conversation and I'm actively listening and I know I might forget, I'm gonna type it out or write it. And I do share, hey, I'm typing on my phone, but I'm making notes so they don't think I'm just playing Candy Crush.
Yeah.
But that I'm present and I'm making notes so I can come back to it because otherwise you get into the conversation and you're listening and you can forget. So absolutely write your questions. And this is a good practice for later, for IEP meetings, for your IFSP transition meeting from part C to B. So this is all really good exercises. And of course, ask clarification. If you're asking a question and still don't understand, please ask to clarify, summarize, and practice, 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 right? um for me, when my son was born and we started seeing different specialists, that was a new world for me. So that was not something that I was familiar with. And active listening to doctors can be challenging because they speak doctors and especially the endocrinologist. Like that took me a minute, and I would ask him to draw it, and then my endocrinologist would draw like all the factors, and I would take a picture of it. But then that's how I learn, and then I write my questions and go with them ahead of time, just like Rose shared, till you are familiar with the specialist, the therapist, whatever it is, if it's something new in your daily life.
I was going to mention that, oh, where do I have it? One thing that helped me, because sometimes I would want the professionals to see the same reports that I had hoped they had read, and there's always digital, but this is just an art portfolio, but it has um, pages that you can slide your reports in. And it's so funny. Even in this modern day, they think I'm so organized because I walk in there with the reports. But it does help me keep organized. It's just a little tip. And that's what I love about having webinars like this, because we can share tips. Again, if you have any, feel free to use the chat box.
Yeah. And one thing you remind me about you mentioning that, Rose, one of the, so for my son, he was practically nonverbal till about three, four, then he became pre-verbal. Now he is completely verbal. But one of the things that I did at actually with you guys, early steps, I attended the It Takes Two to Talk Hanan program. And that also taught me a lot of communication with unspoken words. Like, what is your child trying to tell you? And that's kind of like all a little bit in here, right? The body language when you're interacting with adults. But that also taught me a whole lot. And I still use a lot of those strategies today with my verbal speaking adults in my world.
It is. That's a great program.
Yes, yeah. So, the opposite of active learning is listening is passive listening, right? And passive listening is listening without reacting. You are using your body language. It's more sit back or be engaged, depending on the context, what is going on. Is a one-way communication where the receiver doesn't provide feedback or ask question, um, and may or may not understand the sender's message. So if that's the case, we're going to go back to the strategies we talked about, right? We're going to be asking questions. So we coming out of that passive role and become an active listener.
So you will notice as you engage with different medical professionals, especially, this is a time where there are some that while they are with you, they are typing, 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 typing. That's how they take their notes. And I will say, when I first saw that, it really did bother me because I didn't feel like they were actively listening to me. And there's pros and cons. And I just want to mention the pro because I have a friend who has to read the doctor's notes all the time. You know, the pro is that made me a little more forgiving when the doctors did this is they're getting the facts right then and there. Whereas when the doctor steps out, sometimes they get pulled 3 or 4 places and they don't do your notes until later. And so another thing that I start paying attention now. Some have scribes that walk around with them and they're taking notes while the doctor is looking at you, listening to you. So just some different styles that I've seen.
Thank you for sharing that. And that is so true. That is so true. Some make eye contact, some don't, and some take the time. And some you get 15 minutes. So it's always good to be prepared because then you know ahead of time what your questions are. And so we talked about communication, right? But at the end, what we want to get to is collaborative communication, because that takes us back at the beginning where we said that this is not a sprint, this is a marathon. And at the end of the day, we're communicating and working collaboratively with our team for the benefit and improvement of our children, right? So when you're receiving early steps services or intervention, you're collaborating with your family care specialist, with the therapist that you're seeing, also with your doctors. And then later in life, it's going to transition to the school. So collaborative communication is the process of communication in which every individual matters and all their needs matter equally. Okay, so everybody's uh, their contribution to the conversation is important, equally matters. The main intention idea behind it is connection takes place when individuals feel that they are heard, seen, and valued, right? And it's easy to when you don't get good news or you're being on the phone for over an hour with us to get through some medical appointment, to get frustrated and to be angry and upset because we feel that our time maybe is not being valued or our opinion. But we want to come back to this space where all of us are feeling heard, seen, and valued. The term collaborative communication consists of two main concepts: collaborative teams and communication, right? So a collaborative team, like I said before, can be a group of people who have communication that are usually open-ended in nature. They share a common belief, idea, or thought. In this case, your child is the common dem oh my God,
Denominator.
denominator. There you go. Thank you. And they work towards a goal, a common goal. And the goal is to make sure that the child is getting all the benefits, medical attention, whatever it is that you're doing to improve in the area that is being talked about at that moment. So if you are working with teams to secure services for your child, right? It's important to keep three things in mind. Opinions. Everybody comes to the table with their lived experience, knowledge, values, and thoughts on the subject at hand. Respect those personal thoughts and beliefs. And they might not be the same as yours, but respect them. Everybody is there for a goal, right? Your child. Also, perspectives, multiple perspectives help in problem solving and brainstorming options to find solutions to problems and situations. So here, flexibility is key to accept other viewpoints and allowing open dialogue. And then also rights of all party. And this goes back to respect and basically general courtesy, right? Not just legal rights, but the rights to speak without interruption, the right to disagree, and the right to ask questions. And when we are all mindful of all these three factors, and we are respectful in our group, we can have successful collaboration, and it will go beyond dividing up tasks or assembling a finished product. It's more about fostering a genuine determination to reach a common objective, and working together and accepting what the other one has to say and believes in. On this slide, we see encourages both party. So these are things that collaborative communication leads to. People feel safe, so they are more open to express on their honest feeling, right? So if you have a good collaborative communication with one of the therapists of your child, and you're like, this is not really working, let's try something else. If you feel safe, if all parties feel safe to have that conversation, it can lead to really positive changes, right? But you have to feel safe to be honest. It also promote mutual respect, because then you're going to start respecting each other. um that everybody at the table has critical information to share. It's super important. We're equals in that part. Allow both discussion and disagreement, which is okay. We can agree to disagree. I respect you. You leave everybody in their values and respect them. And cultural differences are various beliefs, behaviors. It could be language, it could be race, national origin, but it's understanding and respecting where individuals come from, what group they belong to, and what belief system they abide by. This will help to bridge understanding and respect. And of course, right, the most important is remain focused on the topic. What topic is your child? And that is what's going to drive end result. And keep in mind, keep the goal in mind. Encourage your team also, all the members of your team, to keep their eye on the prize. And time is too precious to waste, right? So if we establish all these strategies, have collaborative communication, we can manage difficult times, manage difficult conversations, and that will lead us in collaborative efforts.
Well said.
And then think about it as a partnership, right? As parents and providers, we have the same goal. I've said this, I think, like over 20 times now, to have successful outcomes for our children. That is the outcome. And this will come together when we are all truly partners. We're partners together, and putting our own interest aside. Like, I'm upset at you because I was on the phone for an hour. No, put it aside, and let's work towards the greater goal and really create a partnership. And I can tell you that with many of professionals that I have encountered, through the years with my son that probably are not his providers anymore or medical specialists, but I have created partnership and they have become friends. And they're people that I still go to for questions, or I refer families and friends. But we create a lifelong partnership together. Communication also have barriers, right? And it's really important to acknowledge those as well. The first one can include your own experiences or things you've been told by other people or what others bring to discussion. So that's your go-to. That's what you know. And that sometimes can be a barrier to get that you need to get over to lead to positive communication and collaborative communication. Then also, if you're not healthy yourself, right? Not feeling good, of your chronic conditions, this also can affect your communication and ability to interact. Then we have emotional responsive. And because you're trying to identify what your child needs, and we said this at the beginning, there is so much discussion of what your child cannot do. And hearing this can be very hard as a parent, right? So it is important to put that aside. I know it's easier said than done, right? But don't hear they cannot do it. We're talking about what they cannot do because we're finding solutions and focus on the solution. What are we trying to reach here? And then one of the things, especially being an early intervention, is the jargon and the alphabet soup, right? But I promise you that as time goes by, you will get familiar. And we here at F&D, we have a great alphabet soup, both in print and digitally. And we can help you through it. You'll get better at it. Special education is all acronyms. I'm sorry to say that, but you will get familiar with them. And then also the fear or intimidation. It can be very overwhelming. Um, the number of professionals that you have to deal with, that you have to meet with. So it can feel and it can freeze communication. So one of the strategies that Rose shared with us that I think is very helpful to overcome this barrier is to be prepared ahead of the meeting, is having everything in either printed or on your phone, write your questions down, because if you know you're going to be feeling overwhelmed, you can open your binder and read those questions, because most likely the emotion is going to take over and then you're not going to remember. And then you got to wait another 3 months to get an appointment. All right, so difference in opinion. This is a part of communication, because we all have different perspectives and different values and norms. So we can use the lock strategy here. Listen to and restate the other person's opinion. This is how you show that you have heard the other person clearly and you're confirming that you understand their opinion. Okay. Treat others the way you want to be treated, period. Also, there is nothing wrong with recognizing that you may be wrong or that you may not have all the information. So compromise allow for both parties to come to a resolution. So that is also part, like we don't know it all. I sometimes think I do, but I don't. And also know what information did you base your opinion on, right? State the facts or reasoning for your opinion so you can help others understand your viewpoint, right? Because oftentimes I have this opinion and it's based on something that I read. And when it comes to Down syndrome, I often feel that when it comes to my child, I know it best, right? So when I have a disagreement with a medical professional, I share this is where I got my information from and share that. And then together we can look at it and come with a informed decision together, a consensus between the two of us. Ways that collaborative communication can be useful. So it can be useful, here, when you're using it in different systems, right? And it can be in your work setting, assessing personal resources. We just talked about the all the professionals and providers that we have to navigate with our children. Securing school services when it's time to transition to the special education, whether your child is going to go to the pre-K services, it will be super helpful to do this. And of course, working with others to complete a project. But also planning family events, right? That is also a good way to use collaborative communication. Where are we going for dinner tonight? My son always wants to go do tacos, and then I want to do pizza. So we come to consensus, and we have a good communication about it.
I wanted to mention that one process that we have recently implemented at Early Steps is knowing. We know that when they come in for an evaluation, it can feel intimidating to have the professionals going over test scores and things. But at the end, the family is now given homework, um, and in the different categories where they would like the goals, their outcomes, and they're to take it home, and then they'll come back and meet with their family care coordinator slash service coordinator. And that way, that communication from the family, it is valued, and it has to happen. And that has really helped us a lot with being able to feel, if they aren't comfortable talking out loud, they come home, they bring it. Some just talk about it, but we're giving homework.
Like that. I like that. And that's kind of like that's where the practice start, right? For later, because you're gonna be doing homework. You're gonna be doing homework. I do like that. I like that a lot. So, what makes a team successful, right? And we're talking specifically here in terms of our child. Our child is that's the mission. The team has to be clear by the mission, and the mission is our child to whether it's health, it's developmental delay, a specific diagnosis, it's how can we help the child function appropriately or speak, whatever it is, the goal is. Um, and this goes back to all the points that we mentioned. Respectful communication has to be the norm. Engage in continuous improvements. Yeah, everybody is engaged in that process. Oh, be happy, encouraging. Oh, let's make new goals, always looking at the future. And we that's how we make the team effort. That's how we get everybody engaged. I had a wonderful team when we were receiving early intervention. Every time that we had our IFSP meeting, I had the PT, the OT, the speech. everybody come together with my family coordinator, and we would talk about all the milestones and we will all the successes, but then also look back at what has not been met yet, receive and provide positive and construction feedback, and together learn from each other and also make new goals for him and work towards those. So it was always a great teamwork together. We are going to skip this one. And this is going to bring us to basically the last slide, right? This is an overview, but I want to read this out loud. So, coming together is the beginning, and then working together for a common goal is progress. And good collaborative communication is success. So that was the overview of the collaborative communication. So that brings us to the end. Real quick, here you can see all the PTIs that we have. Well, like I said, we serve the whole state, and here you can see the areas that we have. And on this slide, you can see, oops, let me go back, all the ways that you can communicate with us. This presentation is going, so we have people live here with us. We are going to share it on Facebook, on FND, but also on Early Steps Facebook page. And do we have any questions, Rose?
No, there's no questions. Can I just add a couple little tidbits
Of
that I wanted to
course.
throw in? All right. No, I don't see any, but remember, those of you participating, if you do have a question, there is a chat box and you are welcome to put your question in there. I just wanted to say, think about the facts when you are talking to that professional. Think about the facts. Um, when you have those few minutes with a listening ear, think about, like, when we have families come in to our program, um, and we may hear, oh, he's got bad behavior. Okay, well, bad is an opinion word. So concrete examples are extremely important. If there's sleep or maybe going to the bathroom challenges, keeping a log is super beneficial. To have data that speaks to what you are witnessing in your home. So try to think about gathering facts to be able to share. That will always, always, always help the team to be able to understand where you are expressing a need for help or a concern. Another thing I just wanted to mention is uh, exactly what Soren was talking about with tone. I recommend that at times, if you feel you cannot talk about something without the frustration tone coming out, that would be a good opportunity to actually put it in writing and then email. You have a record of it and you can reread it several times before it comes out. And often that can be more productive than having I'm very guilty of wearing my emotions on my sleeve. Okay. So honestly, texting and emailing has been a blessing for me in the journey with my son. And another thing, it is your right as a parent to read those notes. I know there's only so many hours in the day, but um, most medical places now have portals
Mhm.
um, that you can go to. I highly recommend reviewing that information. Make sure it's accurate because other people are forming plans based on that information. And, get up every day, do the best you can each day. Remember what Soren told us, it is a marathon. And you all are showing that desire to do your best by being here today. So just want you to know you've got some cheerleaders here and we do appreciate you.
Absolutely. You are doing an amazing job. Because I understand it can be overwhelming, being having your child so young and you're going through early intervention, and maybe this is not the journey you thought you were going to be on, but here you are. So it can be overwhelming. I oftentimes felt like I was not doing enough. But I had people telling me, and then I believed it. I'm doing enough and I'm doing the best I can. And your baby just needs you to love up on her and or him, and communicate collaboratively with your team, and it's gonna be good. Awesome. Well, I want to thank everybody for being here with us during this hour. Like I said, we're going to put this on Facebook. If you have any questions, you can reach out to Rose or to me. We will also put the resources in the comment section on Facebook. And we are going to be back next month with a Early Steps collaboration. And Rose, it was a pleasure to be here with you today again. It's been a little
Pleasure to
bit.
be with you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your day.
All right, you too.